Population interaction. So in a community, now suppose this is a community. So apart from the human beings, there are other species also, like it can be animals, there can be plants, and they are depending upon each other. They interact with each other, they depend upon each other. Nobody stays isolated. So there are different types of interactions in a community. So we are going to study about the different types of interactions. In mutualism, suppose there are two species, like species A and species B. When they interact, both are getting benefits. Species A also gets benefit, species B also gets benefit. It's a positive interaction. This is one of the examples of mutualism, where this is a dicot plant, and on its roots there are some fungi growing. And this relationship, this interaction is called as mycorrhiza. The interaction between fungi and the roots of higher plants. So if this is a positive relationship, then we'll see what are the benefits that they get. Like if it's a fungi, the fungi, they do not have chlorophyll, whereas the higher plants, their leaves are having chlorophyll, which means that they can prepare their food. Whereas the fungi cannot prepare their food, but they are close to the soil, so they will be getting access to nutrients and water. So what the fungi gives to roots of higher plants, fungi will give nutrients, and water. It helps in taking up nutrients and water and give it to the roots of higher plants. In return, the higher plants will give to the fungi prepared food, as the plants are having chlorophyll and fungi do not have. So this is how mycorrhiza is an example of a mutualistic relationship. So always the plants, in order to get pollinated, the flowers, in order to get pollinated and to attract the bees, butterflies, they provide some rewards. The rewards are in the form of nectar or any place to lay eggs. Now this is the image of figs. And this is a wasp. Figs offer the wasp place to lay eggs. Figs also give these seeds for the young ones of the wasp to feed on. In return to this service, the wasp will be visiting the flowers and pollinating. So this is an example of mutualistic relationship. However, always this kind of mutualistic relationship do not occur. For example, in this case, this bee is trying to take the nectar not through the open channel, but it injects at the base of the petals. So since the place where it's trying to take the nectar, they don't have any access to pollen grains. So in this case, it becomes like robbery because there is no benefit for the flower. The pollen grains will not be sticking on to the bees. The petals of one of the petals of Ophrys has resemblance to a female honeybee. Honeybee will be thinking that this is a female honeybee and tries to copulate with it, which is called as pseudo copulation, or honeybee pseudo copulates with the flower. In this case, the honeybee is being cheated, so it's also called sexual deceit. But the flower gets the benefit in this case. Since the bee visits the petals and it has access to the pollen grains here, so the flower gets pollinated. But the bees gets no benefit. Another type of interaction is competition. Competition can happen between the same species, or competition can happen between different species. Now, if the competition is between the members of the same species, we can call it as intra-specific competition. Whereas if the competition is between different species, we say it as interspecific. According to Charles Darwin, nature selects only those species which is fittest. So they struggle for existence, and those who are fit, only they would survive. The others would be eliminated. According to Charles Darwin, the interspecific competition leads to evolution. As seen in South American lakes, there exists competition between the bird flamingo and the fishes growing there. So they both belongs to different species, but they compete for the same food resource. Like the zooplankton, these are copypods. So like there are different zooplanktons. So both of these species, that is flamingo as well as the fishes living there, they compete for the same resource, which means that the competition happens between two different species also. Now there is Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. Gauss's competitive exclusion principle states that when the resources are limited, the competitively superior species will eliminate the species which is not able to competitively succeed. So one species eliminates the other species. That is Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. The rocky intertidal coast area. There are two types of barnacles. One is bigger in size and its name is Belanus, and the other barnacle is called Chathamalis. So since the Belanus barnacle is bigger in size and they have little more higher feeding efficiency, the Chathamalus is not able to compete with the Balanus. So its spreading will reduce. Chathamalus will not be able to spread widely. Balanus succeeds there. So these are the Balanus and this is Chathamalus. And gradually the Chathamalus can be excluded or it can be eliminated from the zone as they are not able to compete with the bigger species of barnacle Balanus. Now, when the competitively superior species, if they are experimentally removed, like for example, the Balanus barnacle is removed, then the inferior species population will be able to expand their distribution. So, if the superior species is removed, the inferior ones will be able to expand. Then the terminology used is competitive release.
In Galapagos Island,
Abingdon tortoise were found widespread until the introduction of goats in that area. Goats' foraging efficiency was higher than Abingdon tortoise. Because of that reason, they started to get extinct. This is also an example of interspecific competition. But there are examples to show that it is not necessary that every time these species has to compete amongst themselves, leading to exclusion. Sometimes the common resource can be shared and the species can coexist with other species. This is called resource partitioning. So if two species compete for the same resource, they could avoid the competition and they will be able to coexist due to differences in their feeding times and foraging patterns. As seen in this case, MacArthur's warblers. These are different varieties of warbler birds. They depend and they stay on the same resource, the same tree, but they share the resources and all of them coexist because their foraging patterns are different. Like you can see this warbler, they feed from the periphery of this tree. Second one feeds from inner periphery, inner to the periphery. And then this warbler feeds from the middle zone. This warbler feeds from the bottom part of the tree. And they might be feeding from on different times also. So because of this reason, they are able to coexist without any competition and they will partition the resources.
similar situations we can see in India too. When people trees fruit, we can see birds like cuckoo, Asian fairy bluebird, bulbul, quail, green imperial pigeon. They sit together and then they sort out the resources without competing with each other.
The predation is a positive, negative type of interaction where species A will get the benefit and species B is getting harmed. So who is getting benefit? They are called as predators. Predation is very important in a community because of many reasons. One reason is that they help in the transfer of energy. from the basic trophic level to the highest trophic level. Now, for example, here, the sun's energy comes to the plants. So there should be a predator who can feed upon these plants so that energy get transferred to the next trophic level. And then from there, the energy will be getting transferred to the higher trophic level when a predator feeds on its prey. So predation helps in transfer of energy from one trophic level to the other. The predators keep prey population under control. So if there is one predator, they can keep the number of prey population under control. Suppose if this predator is not there, there would be overexploitation of vegetation by the prey population. So it can lead to absence of vegetation in that area then. The prickly pear cactus introduced into Australia spread rapidly into millions of hectares of rangeland, and it was becoming invasive until a predator, that is moth, were introduced that controlled the spreading of prickly pear cactus. So this is the invasive prickly pear cactus found in Australia. It started to spread uncontrolled until the moth was introduced, which kept the population under control. So there should always be a predator to control the prey population. The predators also reduce competition between the prey species. So they maintain the species diversity in a community. For example, when all the starfish were removed experimentally from the intertidal zone of American Pacific coast, more than 10 species of invertebrates became extinct within a year because of interspecific competition amongst them. So predators will be able to reduce the competition between prey species. So this is starfish disaster. It was keeping the invertebrate population under control by feeding them. But once this starfish was removed from the area, there became lots of competition amongst the invertebrates, leading to the extinction of some of the species. The predators in nature are prudent, which means that they cannot overexploit the prey. That is because if a predator overexploits its prey, then the prey might get extinct, followed by predator because of lack of food for the predator. Now, the prey organisms also have adopted some defense mechanisms so that they won't be eaten up by predator. For example, monarch butterfly. Monarch butterfly predators like birds, they would not like to feed because of its distasteful nature. And that distastefulness is because of a chemical which this butterfly as caterpillar used to feed on. That's why if it is birds or any other predators, they would like to keep away from this butterfly. Another defense mechanism is that some of the insects as well as frogs, they are cryptically colored. So like this is a leaf hopper insect. This insect color is like the surrounding leaf. So they can escape from the predators from getting noticed. Similarly, this is a cryptically colored frog sitting here. But look at the background. The colors are somewhat same. So it's unlikely to be spotted by the predator. There are also morphological defenses used by the prey population in order to avoid getting eaten up by the predator. For example, the cactus. Cactus has got spines which are reduced leaves. But since these spines are present, predators would love to keep away from this plant. So this cactus is getting protected. Similarly, this is acacia. These are thorns of acacia plant. These thorns will protect the plant from getting eaten up by grazers. Now this plant is Calotropis. Calotropis is a weed which is found in grasslands or the roadsides with these flowers. Now cattle would like to keep away from it because of the presence of cardiac glycosides in it. So cardiac glycosides inhibits the feeding or digestion or even kill that cattle. That's why cattle would love to stay away from this Calotropis plant. Some of the plants produce certain chemicals in order to keep away from the grazers and browsers, like the plants which produce nicotine, caffeine, strychnine, quinine, opium. They are all produced as defense against the grazers. Parasitism. Parasitism is another population interaction where one of the species is getting benefited, whereas the other species, which is the host of the parasite, is getting harmed. Host gets harmed, whereas the parasite gets the benefit. The parasite has got adopted some adapt. The parasites also have adaptations, like they do not have any unnecessary sense organs like eyes, ears, nose. They also don't have digestive system. There is no need of a digestive system because they are already clinging on to our intestinal tract. So they just have to absorb the nutrients from the walls of the intestine. They do not have to digest anything. So they don't have a digestive system. They also have hooks and suckers to cling on to the host. So this is a parasite. It is tapeworm. This is its head. On enlarged view, you can see the head has got hooks here and the suckers here that helps the parasite to cling on to the host organs like intestine. They also have high reproductive capacity, mostly reproducing asexually. Like in case of tapeworm, each segments they can divide and form a new individual. So they have high reproductive capacity. This is a parasite called liver fluke. Liver fluke enters into the human being. So human being is one of the hosts of liver fluke. And then after getting inside the intestine, they enter into the bile duct of man, where they produce the eggs. And then when it falls into the water bodies, there it enters into snail. So snails are the second host and human beings are the first host. Then there are other hosts too, fish. So fishes and snails are the hosts of these liver fluke. And when these fishes are eaten by a human being without proper cooking, that is when the parasite enters into the human tract. So these snails as well as the fishes are intermediate hosts. Now the malarial parasite, Plasmodium, they spread by infecting two types of hosts. One is a female Anopheles mosquito and the humans whose blood it takes for the purpose of reproduction. The mosquitoes are only vectors and the parasite stays inside the body of some of the mosquitoes. Humans are host. Here there are brood parasitic birds like cuckoo or quail. These birds, they lay eggs in host bird's nest. Like for example, this is a cuckoo egg. It is being laid in the nest of crow's eggs and they let the crow incubate them. Cuckoo or quail will not be incubating them, but that work has been given to crow to incubate. But these cuckoo eggs, when they hatch out, the young ones have a tendency to eject out crow's eggs. Ultimately, the crow will be left with the young ones of cuckoo. And then the crow will be feeding those cuckoo young ones. So that's why they are called as brood parasitism. The next type of population interaction is called commensalism. In commensalism, one of the species will be getting benefit. So it will be positive for them. The other species is neither benefited nor harmed. So it will be a neutral relationship for the second species. For example, in case of orchid here, this is an epiphyte. Orchid is an epiphyte. Epiphyte means they need the support of the tree. They are not parasites, they just need the support of a tree to cling on because they have their own chlorophyll, so they can prepare their own food. So just they want an attachment. So in this case, the orchid gets the benefit, so it's positive, and the tree on which it is clinging on to is neither getting benefit nor it is harmed. Another example of commensalism is the relationship or the interaction between sea anemone, which is belonging to phylum Coelenterata. So they have these tentacles that emits toxin. And this is a fish called clownfish. So when the clownfish is being chased by predators, clownfish will come towards the tentacles of sea anemone. The clownfish mucous membranes are resistant to the toxic effects of these tentacles, whereas its predators are not. So that's why the clownfish will get a shelter to get protection from its predators. So in this case, the sea anemone has got neither benefit nor harm. So it's a neutral relationship for it. Whereas the clownfish gets benefited because it gets protection due to sea anemone's tentacles. In Commensalism, if there are two species, one species gets harmed, whereas the other species neither get harmed nor benefited. So it's a neutral relationship for this. The example for this is antibiotics. So antibiotics are made from fungi. So the species fungi are neither getting benefited nor harmed. When these antibiotics are taken, the bacteria which is present, they get killed. So bacteria will be harmed. For example, here penicillium belongs to kingdom fungi and then the bacteria is there. For penicillium, it is a neutral relationship, no benefit nor harm, whereas bacteria is being attacked. So for the bacteria, it's a negative relationship. Now let's recapitulate what we studied about the population interaction. Mutualism is such a relationship where species A is benefited and species B is also benefited. So there is mutual relationship. Now next is commensalism. In case of commensalism, one species gets benefited whereas the other one neither gets benefited nor harmed. Then comes predation. In case of predation, the predator will get the benefit whereas the prey will be harmed. The next is competition. In case of competition, both the competitors will get harmed because whenever they compete for food, they both attack each other and ultimately they get injured. So there is loss for both of them. The next is commensalism. In commensalism, one organism is harmed and the other one is neither getting benefit nor harmed. Next is parasitism. In parasitism, the parasite gets the benefit, whereas the host is harmed.